Thoughts from my walk. I try to get out and walk regularly, and either that or also try to get out and ride my bicycle regularly. And my mind is always going. And I thought I'd start making these videos to share some thoughts that I have on my walk. The first thing I want to share is about my walk itself. You know, I see as I walk, I'm at a beautiful park today in Bakersfield, California. And there are lots of benches. It's a beautiful day. To me, the temperature is just perfect for being out on a walk. But I see so many people that are just sitting on the benches, and they're really, some of them, maybe just enjoying the day. But, most of these people that are sitting around here on the benches, sad to say, but they really don't walk much. And I walked past a woman and her husband, and she was about my age. And she's on one of these walker things, it's got wheels on it, but she just taken this little walking path to a place where she could just then sit on her walker. And I don't know what her situation is, but what I would ask myself is that where the direction I'm heading? Or am I heading in a different direction? And why is that I think that I'm heading in a different direction? You see, are you walking or are you sitting? That's the question to be asked. Are you walking or are you sitting? Or maybe put it this way. When you go to sit down next time, you got time just to sit down and loaf around a little bit. Do you need to sit or do you need to walk? For me, I need to walk. And I'm not a young chicken anymore. And at my age, I know that I need to keep my body in motion to keep it healthy. I went past a woman and she, commented, because she was really walking slow, and she commented then about her age, and I said to her, I says, really? I says, well, I plan to be walking like this when I'm past 120 years old. And she laughed, and she says, not really. And I said, no, really. And I said that I'm a lot older than you would think I am. Let me take these glasses off. I know it's better to see eyes, and my glasses are made so that they get darker with the light, but it blocks out my eyes as well. But anyway, so yeah, she, and I says I'm a lot older than you would think, and so just had a little slight conversation there with her, and for me it's a choice to be in the health and the physical ability to be very vibrant when I'm 120 years old. And if you follow any of the research and studies that are being done and have been done, and the discoveries just in the last 5 years, not to speak of the last 20 years and 30 years and 40 years, that people have really been working on longevity and reversing aging, that I started thinking several years ago that if I can just continue, well, in fact, when I turned 50, which was a long time ago, when I turned 50, because I had gone from when I got married at the age of 22, and where then I was 145 pounds, and by the time that I turned 50, I was 275 pounds. And there's a common saying that it's all downhill. And I decided it didn't have to be all downhill. I could turn it around. And I did. I turned it around, and I didn't want to, go on some, a miracle program, to be great overnight. Because if you ever see those people, they go out and they get weight loss surgeries, or they lose a lot of weight because they do a lot of exercising in a year, and they change their diet and all this kind of stuff, but they, take a year or 2 years and they lose a lot of weight, and then you keep following them and they gain the weight back. And Are we headed towards more ability or more disability? That's what I asked myself when I turned 50. Am I headed towards more ability or more disability? You see, I knew what my ability was like when I was, 20 years old, or even when I went into the Army at the age of 17, and then 21, and then 22 when I got married. And over those years, my trajectory had turned to more lack of ability. I've lost ability. And I just keep heading in that direction. And then when I reach 50, I says, okay, this is where it stops. And I turn it around. And every year, my objective then becomes to have a little more ability every year than disability. Now they say, well, Mark, you don't look disabled to me. No, if you have less ability, then you have disability. It's that simple. Disability is just a function of degrees. And so like that woman that sat on that walker, she didn't start out in life that way. And that's the thing, is that we don't start out in life in the way that we end up for many people, and we never even think about it. We never really take responsibility for ourselves. We don't take responsibility for the fact that, oh yeah, I sat when I should have been out walking. And we don't take responsibility for how we think about things. And so, just sharing a few thoughts from my walk today at the park, and that lady in that walker, she was someone that I thought about as I walked around, and just thought about, I want to have more ability, not less ability. And I've been on that trajectory for years now. Just a little bit more ability every year is all it takes. Just a little bit, not a lot. You don't have to go out and start running marathons next week or next year, but just a little more ability. And yes, I know over the years, about 15 years ago when I started that, I'm 65 now, I'll be 66 soon. And over the years that I failed some of those years where, I relapsed, and, I gained some pounds back, and I had less ability than I had the year before. But I didn't accept that. And because I didn't accept that, I, again, turned it around. I stopped and I talked with a woman that she's a grandma, and she had her grandson here in a little park, and he was playing on the kiddie, the slides and things like that they have for kids, and she talked about the fact that when he goes, his mom says that when he goes to preschool, that he's just a little bossy boy, and I told her, I said, I gave her a few nuggets of, I guess, Mark's wisdom. And she appreciated it, she really did. She was like really wanting to know more, and then when I walked away, she said, hey, thank you very much. So there's ways to deliver your communication that people won't find offensive. And in her case, I really keyed into it. I says, well, you start to see abilities early in life in children. But we turn those, as adults, we see those abilities and we don't like how we see them, how they show up, and so we turn them into disabilities instead of helping that ability to develop and to prosper. And I used a couple examples. There was a little girl, it wasn't her, she was with her grandson, but there's a little girl also in the park, and I could see that little girl was quite the instigator. There was 3 little boys and this little girl in the park, all under 5 years old. And that little girl, she was the one that was trumpeting the call to let's go down the slide and these kinds of things. And that is a leadership trait. But then if that isn't encouraged and it becomes something that becomes discouraged, and we do it because we think we're keeping our kids safe. But so oftentimes we are teaching our kids to conform to our limiting and restrictive ways. And so that instigation can be something that can be instead fostered and developed into something that becomes great. And that's what then when I share with that woman that her little grandson that has a tendency in preschool to be bossy, and yeah, you say, well, don't be so bossy, and don't do that, don't say that, don't do that, and so what we teach the little kids is we teach them to shut down. We teach them to conform and to be limited and restricted. But you see, I shared with her, I says, a car that is moving in the wrong direction can be turned to the right direction. But if you park that car and the car is not moving at all, then the car is not going to be going in any good direction. So it's better to take and be in movement. Going back to where I started with all this, are you sitting or are you moving? And as long as you're moving, even if you're moving in the wrong direction, if your goal becomes to get better, then you make a few mistakes. That's how we all learn. We make some mistakes and we get better. We learn from our mistakes. And that's one of the things that I don't ever want to do, is to discourage people from making mistakes. And I want to encourage people when they are moving, because then you can turn that movement into a direction that becomes something great. So I appreciate your listening and stopping by here with me today, and I'll be trying to share these little thoughts from my walk in the park, or not always a park, but thoughts from my walk I'll be sharing a little more often, and I hope you enjoy them. Thanks a lot for listening. Have a great day.